General Nope / Skinwalker / Goatman. So X, I'm feeling generous. Decided I would share my nope Innawoods. Anyone interested? Before I start, I'll give you a bit of background. This happened in 2012 when I was still in school. Me and two bros of mine decided that we would enter a film competition because fuck it. And we all had experience in filmmaking and editing after seeing a leaflet on it in our school. The winners would win a cash prize and some other stupid shit, I don't know. We took basic supplies like food, a tent, camping apparatus, weed, and liquor, because it wouldn't be a proper camping experience without them, along with a camera and a tripod to film our spooky movie. The events that occurred happened over the course of 4 days. We originally planned to stay for 5 days. P.S. I don't usually green text, so don't ridicule me, friends. B17. Bro 1, let's call him Chris, also 17. Bro 2, let's call him Sean. Sean is 16. Remember, both of these names are made up for the sakes of anonymity. Chris was the most macho guy of the group, who was the ladies' man. He was a great athlete and the sporty type, but deep down, he was a really sensitive guy. Sean was the geek of the group, who was also an outdoor freak. He was shooting elks since he was like 12 with his father, so he knew his shit about outdoors. He was great at computing / editing, but was slightly beta and the only virgin out of the three of us. We would usually tease him about it, in a jokingly way, of course. Anyway, day 1. Used my dad's car as a means of transportation. Drove about 27 miles outside of the nearest town. Pulled up into a secluded road for about another 5 miles before pulling to a stop. Investigate the grounds to see if it's suitable for the film / camp's location. Perfect. We walk about 300 feet into what looked like a campsite. Nearly sure it wasn't and that we were actually trespassing. Who gives a fuck? Squidward. What? We were all appointed roles. Mine was to collect firewood when necessary. After prioritizing the important shit like setting up our tents, starting a fire, and getting our bearings of the surrounding area, we started the film. The film was meant to be one of them cliche slashers in the woods, like Wrong Turn and Friday the 13th. I was a character alongside Sean. Chris filmed the film using the camera and tripod. Looking back, it was cheesy as fuck, but it was fun. What seemed like no time was actually like 5 hours of shooting and messing about. Sean suggests heading back to the campsite as it's getting dark, and we don't want to get lost. We get back to the campsite and some of our stuff is missing and misplaced. We notice our rucksacks carrying our food has been opened, and food has been stolen. Starting to feel uneasy about the situation. Sean says it was probably a deer or a bird. Me and Chris don't argue, but we are all slightly unsettled about the situation, although no one said anything in case they would be called a pussy and etc. After about 2 hours of smoking and drinking, a strong smell resembling rotten milk mixed with vomit hits our nostrils with the power of 1,000 suns. Chris shouts, "Which one of you fucks farted? It fucking smells like burnt asshole." We piss our balls laughing cause everything's better stoned and drunk. In the fits of our laughter, a quick rustling in the bushes behind the tent occurs. We all go silent. Freaking out, Sean grabs his hunting knife and observes the tree line. After what felt like an hour, Sean cautiously approaches the tree line. He gets to the tree line and shines a torch into the woods. Nothing. At this stage, we all wondered if we had like a joint, pun not intended, nope experience, and that the weed and alcohol was making us imagine it. We decided to call it a night and crawl into our tents. Day 2. Wake up with a slight hangover and dehydrated at like 8:30 a.m. It's overcast unlike it was the day before, which was sunny. Unpredictable weather. Fuck. I crawl out of my tent. Sean is sitting on his camp chair at the edge of the smoldering fire, poking the ashes with a stick lost in thought. I walk over to him. Walking over, he doesn't notice I'm there. I ask him, "Hey man, you okay?" He looks up at me and says, "Yeah man, I'm fine. Wanna go exploring into the woods?" I ask why. He says, "'Cause man, just curious." Weirded out, but I say, "Yeah man, sure." We decide not to wake Chris cause he's a cranky shit when he's disturbed from his sleep. We roll some joints and disappear into the woods. High as shit. Exploring nature is fun. We come to the top of the hill, overlooking some of the woods. I take some photos on my phone of that shit because the scenery is fucking beautiful. On our way down, Shawn casually asks me in nearly a whisper, "Hey, man, did you hear them screeches and the giggling last night?" I say, "Nah, man, I was probably sleeping, though." He says, "Oh, well, I'm surprised you didn't, because they were pretty loud." He then goes on and says that he was pretty creeped out. I nervously laugh and say, "It was probably a fox or something, man. I wouldn't worry about it." He says again in a whispering-like tone, I don't know, man." The more I think about it, the faster my heart starts beating. It's unusual for Shawn to be creeped out, and when he is, he wouldn't say. On top of the fact that he's been camping most of his life, and he knows his shit about outdoors and wildlife. "Is that why you were quiet as hell this morning?" I ask. "Yeah, man, I was pretty worried." Feel unsettled about it. Get a deep feeling in my gut telling us to leave this place. I say nothing, though. We quickly changed the topic of conversation, but the lingering, disturbing feeling we were both feeling remained present. Pig-related. It's the photo I took. Get back to the campsite. Chris is frying bacon. Give me some of that shit. Munchies hit hard. We gobble down like 18 slices of bacon between us in silence. We tell Chris what Shawn told me. He's generally worried, but doesn't let on. We can see it in his facial feature and eyes. Comfort him by saying it was a fox or some shit. Resume filming. Filming for 2 hours. Call an early day of filming because Chris had a bad hangover. We don't complain as we're worn out also. We walk back to campsite. Everything's the way we left it, thank God. Have an early night. Another picture that was captured. Day 3. Wake up fresh as fuck. Fuck yes, that JPEG. The other 2 fuckwits are still asleep. I decide to go for a walk because I'm bored. After about 15 minutes of walking, I get a smell of decomposing flesh. I come across a bird about the size of an Xbox, laying dead. It's completely skinned, and mutilated and covered in flies. Get an overwhelming sense that someone's watching me. I look behind me. About 110 meters away, can make a black figure lurking in between trees and bushes. Whilst looking at it, I hear giggling from behind me, which sounded about 10 meters away. Nope. I run towards the direction of the campsite faster than a friend with a dinner turkey for KFC without looking back. I tell the guys what happened. They actually believe me, probably because of all the weird shit that's going on. We're all worried at this point, worried to the point that we might cancel the rest of the filming. For the rest of that day, we didn't leave the tree line. We sat on our chairs on constant edge, jumping over every creek or crack. When it got dark, we decided to finish the rest of our polished vodka because fuck that. Drunk as fuck, we forget all about the spooky things happening. Chris notices we're going low on firewood. Before anyone can mention, Shawn volunteers because he's a crazy motherfucker with alcohol in him, and is by far the drunkest out of us 3. Says, "I need a piss anyway," in a slurred voice as he's drunk as shit. He staggers off into the tree line and into the pitch black. Me and Chris resume talking. Half an hour or so passes and still no sign of Shawn. "Where the fuck's that guy at?" Chris says, half laughing and half concerned. We start to worry real bad. At this stage, the fire is smolder, and we're using 20 million candle-powdered flashlights to see what the fuck we're doing. The smell of burnt asshole returns with a vengeance. This time, it's that bad that our eyes are watering from it. As soon as the smell slightly dissipates, Shawn emerges from the tree line, calm as ever, and sits down beside us casually. "Where the fuck have you been?" We asked him, generally concerned. He doesn't respond. "And why the fuck are you covered in dirt and shit?" Doesn't respond again. He just sits there looking at the ground, daydreaming. "This isn't funny," Chris says to him generally. Shawn, once with a motionless face, sickeningly looks over at Chris with a smirk on his face, then turns back to the ground. "Whatever, asshole," Chris says, who then stands up and crawls into his tent. I look at Shawn, who is emotionless once more. What the fuck, man? You didn't even get the firewood, I say. As soon as I say that, he quickly looks up and over to me and says, "Do you want to come help me get it?" Slightly weirded by the fact that, not even an hour previous, Sean's words were slurred as shit, and now he's speaking as if he's stone cold sober. I kindly refuse and say, "There's no point, man. We might as well go to bed." I get up and walk towards my tent. As I crawl into my tent, he calls, "Anan, are you scared of it?" In like a fucked up voice that sounded like the girl's voice from The Ring when she wronged the victims. To this day, it seriously makes the hairs on my neck stand up. What the fuck? I turn my head and say, "Why are you talking like that for?" He mockingly smirks. "Like what?" I think to myself, what a fucking asshole, and crawl into the tent. I get fuck all sleep, thinking Sean's going to cut my throat as soon as I close my eyes. Not once did I hear Sean's tent zip open and close, meaning he stayed out all night. It was sickening to the stomach. Day 4. I wake up in the morning to find Sean's tent unoccupied. Think about last night and ask myself, did I have too much to drink? Generally start to believe that what happened wasn't real and my drunk mind interpreted the events wrong. I cook myself up some sausages and eat them in the sun, like a boss. Chris awakens from his tent. He sits beside me. I offer him some. He refuses. "What the fuck happened last night?" he asks. "We were drunk as fuck, man," I say. "Yeah, suppose," he responds. We dismiss it. "Where's that friend anyway?" Chris says jokingly. "Probably away getting firewood," I say. After a while of waiting about to resume filming, Chris, being the hothead he is, loses his patience. "If that retard is lost, I'll rip his head off." I tell him to chill. He opts to go looking for him, while I stay at the camp in case he comes back. Chris disappears into the tree line. An hour or so passes. I sit in the sun and smoke a cigarette. Birds are chirping, and all feels good. Dawns on me that neither bros have returned, though. A slight sense of anxiety is present. I try to ignore it. It gets worse. The birds have gone silent, and a tinge of sour milk is present. I start physically gagging. I think, what the fuck is it with this place and foul odors? I look up sharply into the tree line at the back of the tents. What I'm met upon is terrifying. Even to this day, thinking about it chills me to the core. Despite being about 50 meters away, I was able to distinguish the creature's features. By the looks of it, the thing was about 7 feet. It looked like Golem from Lord of the Rings, but only it was skinnier and it was pale. Its eyes were like 2 small black buttons, sunken deep into the creature's skull. Although the teeth weren't visible, I could imagine how they would look, which adds to the despair. Paralyzed in fear and intense nausea, I stand looking at it in sheer disbelief. Before thinking to nope the fuck out of there, it shot off on all fours. At this stage, my head is spinning and in shock. Chris explodes out of the trees, pale as Snow White with a gash on his face. I grabbed whatever I could and noped out of there without looking back. The 300 meters it took to get to the car were the longest of my life. Whatever the fuck it was following us and mocking us in Sean's voice, which to this day still sends shivers down my back. We jumped in the car and got the fuck out of Dodge, assuming it had gotten Sean. Even in the highway, we didn't feel safe. We left whatever we had up there, including the camera, tents, and the tripod. On our way home, we sat in silence, covered in shit and shaking. When we entered our town, we discussed how we would tell the authorities. The family and friend about how our friend is up in the hills, and some shape-shifting humanoid creature has consumed him, and how we abandoned him. We decided to ring his cell, but there was no answer. We called out his parents to see if he had gone there. We automatically assumed he wouldn't be there because his parents were out of the country. He answered the door casually as if to say nothing happened. We talk and explain all the shit and what happened. The real disturbing and unsettling thing about this is the fact that he denies even going on the trip. He said he'd been staying at home during the entire duration of the trip. We are in utter disbelief, and of course, when we tell all of our friends about this, they don't believe us. There is no proof of him being up there. The only proof is on the camera, and we noped out of there before retrieving it. Since 2012, I've moved from that town, and from what I know of, Sean has alienated himself from his family and friends. He lives by himself and doesn't leave his house apparently, but I don't know for sure. Pretty much after that, I cut all contact of way with him. I occasionally talk to Chris on Facebook, but that's about it. Pic related. It's my tent on day 1. More pictures from my old phone. And the final one.